And good morning. We have a new addition to the stable today. The XP-72 has gone the way of the dodo bird. Um, I wish I could say that I like the aircraft, but I never really did. Um, which I had a little excess experience. I decided to go ahead and use it. That's how much it is like the XP-72. Okay, so what do we have here? This is the F-84 Thunderjet. And I wish I could say that this was a marvelous development, um, but the aircraft had considerable problems throughout its service life um, until the very late war models. And a lot of it comes just from lack of experience with fighter jets. And before you start pointing fingers, the 262 went and fought with problems so serious that it had been in any other country, they would have remained grounded until the problems were resolved. When you have bombers coming over your country every day and wreaking havoc, you go with what you have, which was the case of the ME-262. Um, this aircraft suffered from being underpowered. A lot of them did, by the way. Um, which ended up being with several re-engineering programs that were taking place over the life of this and the successor, the F-86F, I believe, Thunder Streak was the next one. We could check that one real quick. Yeah, F-84F Thunder Streak, which came with the swept wings. Um, and its development history is kind of interesting and not at all that unique. But one of them was they were continuing to use straight wings, and they were not strong enough to take the abuse that the engine and the higher airspeeds could dish out. And this is a new thing in aircraft, right? Well, no. The famous Spitfire, the reason that you see them with the clipped wings on later aircraft was because as they began to get closer and closer to 500 miles an hour, they ran into the same thing that this one did, which is called aileron reversal. Now, what the hell is that? In this aircraft, you cannot really avoid talking about it. So what happens is you twist the wings so badly that when you start trying to deploy your flaps, they deploy in the wrong direction. And that can be catastrophic. This thing was also hard to get off the ground. You had to get to a minimum airspeed of 160 miles per hour, 140 knots, to get it to lift off, and it had to be landed at about the same speed too. It had a lot of nicknames by its pilots, the lead sled being the most common, the ground loving, I'm going to use an acronym here because this is a G-rated channel, lady of ill repute. And you can make the substitution as necessary, but I'm not going to cuss on my channel. Okay, so to give you an idea, once it got in the air, it actually turned out to be fairly both nimble and to be relatively quick. And a number of changes had to be made, and I believe you can see some of that in the, yeah, this is the E model here as opposed to the B model. Now, the B model was, the A model was so bad that it was retired as soon as the B model came out, and the B model was barely acceptable. And only the fact that improved airframes are coming, the D was coming out, which has rectified a lot of the problems, and the E solved even more of them, was this aircraft kept from cancellation. With the A model, the official evaluation is they could see no combat role as it is currently being produced, which is the death knell for many an aircraft. It actually went on to be the major fighter bomber used by the Air Force in the Korean War, and 60% of all ground casualties caused by fighter bombers were caused by this aircraft. It could fire quite a number of bombs. It also had napalm on it. And 10% of all sorties generated were with napalm used against ground troops. Its armament was the M3 cannon. Originally came with the M2. M3 is a faster firing machine gun. And eventually they stuffed a J-35A-17D, which you can see here. And this solved a lot of the problems for the aircraft. But I'm not going to tell you that it was a much beloved aircraft. It entered service in 1949. And it left this Air Force National Guard service in 1959. So a 10-year lifespan to give you an idea that despite it being used, it was not much beloved. And I don't think that anybody missed them. And that is all aircraft, including its successor, which is right here. It still suffered a lot of the same problems that the earlier aircraft did, in that the fact that if you used it, if you got above Mach 0.82, it was really a handful. And it could get into a spin that was all but unrecoverable. And the official recommendations by the Air Force instructions to us pilots, if you enter a spin and you're under 10,000 feet, you eject. Period. You won't recover from it. And that's pretty damning until you realize that the MiG-15 BIS had some of the same problems. It pushed too fast, it would actually start snaking around violently, which is a precursor to losing utter control of the aircraft and airframe disintegration. So it's not alone, but it had a very troubled history, and I don't think the Air Force missed saying goodbye to it in the least. All right, so that is going to finish up the historical segment of this. I have not flown this aircraft before, and as such, I want to spend some time with it, and we'll see where we go with it. Let's talk about the upgrades a little bit. As you can see, this is just a matter of spending money on it. It comes with the, you don't have to research these. So this is essentially the flight comparison. When it gets to the E, then that can be considered a full upgrade. All right, you're hitting right out of the box just about where a Fury ends up at 559. This can be a fairly ferocious ground attack aircraft by mounting these. And you'll notice your speed dropping like a stone. And you're back below or right at where a Fury starts at. Here's something for you to be aware of. When you get the airframe, which is the thing I would probably suggest that you do, you drop your turn time to 10 seconds. And folks, with a lot of aircraft out there in this particular tier, that makes it a dogfighter. There's very few 8-second, 9-second aircraft out there, and the 360 turn time. When you're getting in 10 seconds and with some airframe modifications, you are probably more competitive than you would think you would be, which is surprising. All right, let's talk about your optimum altitude, which is 5906. This is a case where it's probably deserved. This was not an aircraft that you wanted to take particularly high altitude. It was preferred to use it at low altitude, and that was a lot of pilots flew this, and that was their consensus. So while you hear me moan about the lack of altitude on this one probably has it coming. All right, we're going to use this as a fighter bomber, and we'll see where we go. But I'm hoping I will be happier with this. I will not miss the bombs. It was a rather difficult aircraft. Okay, so this is my first flight. I have no idea what to expect out of this aircraft. It is going to be a bit slow.
Let's go.
See what we're flying with. No idea. Alright, we have two of the Teeny Tim rockets. By the way, if you try that with an IL-40, you're not going to be a happy camper.
The enemy is concentrating forces near the airfield.
All that has been accomplished with just the 5-inch rockets. Let's see if we can finish this up. Alright, we're going to hit flaps. And see if we can deal with the fighter here, as I'm getting no help. Use a little boost to get around. I think the fellow is beginning to realize he's in a little trouble. That takes care of that. And we will fire our Teeny Tim rockets. That kind of made a wreck of it, didn't it? Teeny Tim rockets, by the way, I just found out, are fired by your B button. So they're selectable, which is kind of nice. Alright. Now I can do nothing without my ordnance, and 650s are not something that you want to see a whole lot of. AA guns got me. You ever want to know how a map's put together? You just learned. Let's go on back and regen. See if we can finish. And there is a P-228. We've got enough boost to reach him, I think. That's one down. F2H. Yeah. And the reason I'm saying yeah is I haven't got a whole lot of ability to influence this. So we're going to go back down here and see what we can do. There is an enemy aircraft below us, ground attack aircraft. No, I'm not tempted to do anything but come around for this guy. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Well, we now know that the Teeny Tim rockets are these are the B. That helps. Okay. And let's just clean up a little bit here. Alright. Hit with the flaps. Maybe I don't have flaps. Okay, flaps are extended. Hopefully. And I don't have a whole lot of ordnance left to me, so I am going to just come around and deal with the fighter here. Be nice if a GA would come in and take it while I'm dealing with this. Actually, as an all-rounder, this is not an aircraft that I dislike, at least not so far. I'm just trying to jink around here a little bit until I get my Teeny Tim rockets back. For those of you interested, the Teeny Tim was an aircraft, or it was a rocket. There we go. And for a ground attack or a multi-role fighter to take it out like that, it's pretty darn good. I'm actually happy with that. Looks like we have an attacker down here. Got some boost to deal with him. And he looks like he's set up good for an attack, but we'll go after the... Oh, there's... Got a team doing a good job for us today. And I have a full load of rockets again. And I would say I got somebody on my tail, and boy did they let me have it quick. 226. You know, I'd really complain except I just shot down at 226. Looks like we can grab a stronghold here. I'm going to go ahead and head over there. Make sure my flaps are... They need a flaps extended marker on this, something terrible. And looks like we got a B2 that we need to take out of the picture here. He's interfering with our taking the stronghold. Hopefully the anti-aircraft fire will be let's get out of his gun sight. Come back around here. And this should be it. Yeah, that wraps that up. Alright, looks like he's got plenty of company down here, and I need to finish up with that. Takes care of that. And we have flaps up. We should be plenty maneuverable. Takes about 2 minutes to recover your Teeny Tim rocket load. Let's go ahead and do that bit. We'll work off our rockets where I think they'll do the most good. Alright, let's see what we're going to find here. Take the flaps off. I don't think that's going to be all that helpful. KI 162.1. And that wraps it up. So we have a very successful showing with the F-84. We destroyed a fighter, a heavy fighter, and the ground attack aircraft. It came in 2. Flying Raider badge for sector attack, and of course your obligatory flying start. Let's return to the hangar. We'll see what we did. All right, it wasn't really our mission, but we destroyed 6 aircraft and assisted in destroying 1. 5 grounded targets destroyed. I was destroyed twice. Let's see, what did I assist in destroying? No, it's another ground attack here, target. 44,766. Which is pretty darn good for a multi-role. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd be kind of disappointed if I ever turned that in with the IL-40, but it's not optimized for that. But still, we took one sector by ourselves and another one with some assistance. And that got us the 430 there. Now this is without the airframe, so that's kind of nice. 85, well, I might as well say 86,000 points, 12,000 experience, and 600 free experience. Came in number 2. I'm not sure that's not a bot, so I'm going to shut my mouth about it. There we go. All in all, not bad at all. Now, having this as an all-rocket armament is a nice thing to have, because you can just point at what you want and destroy it. I'm going to emphasize that you don't have to learn the hard way the way I did, that the Teeny Tims, which do a lot of damage, show that on here. You can mount 2 500-pound bombs. They do a little more damage, and they have a little more, these 700 more damage points apiece. But for this and the speed that it's going to be coming in at, you're going to find, I think, that this is more effective. Okay, but your B key triggers these the Teeny Tim rockets out, and the the 5-inch Havar rockets, high velocity aerial rockets, is what that stands for. Do 1,500 points a piece and have a just short of 100-foot radius. as a ground attack aircraft, this is, in the ground attack role, I should say, this is a pretty effective aircraft. I don't think I would enjoy it nearly as much as a fighter, just because the guns on it. But and it doesn't have that tight a turning circle. But with one deal, I have got myself almost in range of the airframe. So it'll give me something to show you tomorrow with when I upgrade that, and then it'll be a 52,000 to get the last engine, which puts you to 243. Now you always have the option of using it as a fighter by dropping the ordnance, and if you just want to get rid of the it looks like you're getting a whole whopping 3 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour. No, it's more than that. Okay. You can get most of your speed back by just, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like each one of those drops about 13, 14 miles per hour off your aircraft. So if you want to use it, this thing is as fast as a Fury without rockets. And when you punch in the last engine, you're up to 571, which puts you in attacker territory in more than one way, except that your guns aren't as good. But as you've seen in the Fury, 480 DPS is still enough to get the job done, especially if you're fast. You don't have the altitude capability, and I'm going to say in defense of World of Warplanes, you shouldn't have. Okay, not with this aircraft. And I'm not sure what the Thunderstreak brings to the party, but again, little if anything. Yeah, and that's accurate too. It was just faster. The Air Force had hoped to get a lot more out of the airframe than it was capable of delivering, and this wasn't there. And it's a shame because it's a pretty aircraft, and I think you're going to have some fun playing this. But know it for what it is and accept it for what it is. It's a very effective ground attack aircraft. You could probably take out a mining base just as your own rocket load, which is pretty darn nice. Just once your ordnance expended, don't revert to being a fighter until you get your rockets back, and then you can take it from there. The nice thing is you can pickle them off from a distance, peel off, and immediately become a fighter, which should be pretty handy for you. Mildly surprised. I've got some subscribers on my channel that really dislike this aircraft, and maybe that'll come to the same conclusion. They're not dummies by any means. They know what they're talking about. But they have mentioned they've really had an issue with the F-84. But I like the rocket load on this, and I like it as a multi-role, because it really seems to be able to hold its own as a multi-role. You're not going to mistake it for a turn and burn, and you're not going to mistake it for a boom and zoom. But it kind of fits comfortably in between the two, and you can make it useful as a fighter. So I think you're going to enjoy this a little more than I expected I would in any case. You can find this, I'm going off on a track here. Listen, I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. I also want you to like and to subscribe to the video. I need all the subscribers I can get. I appreciate you more than I can tell you. I feel blessed every day that I contribute to this channel because of you all. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow, and thank you for flying the very unfriendly skies with Tironan.